You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Thursday. Thursday, which around here we like to call Thankful Thursday, and we got a sound effect for that one.
You got to be more thankful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
We thank you so much for this bountiful harvest of Domino's, KFC, and the always delicious Taco Bell.
Have you said thank you once?
Thank you!
Nice. It is. It's Thankful Thursday all day long, and we love this audience. We appreciate you, so we're thankful for you. And by the way, I want to go ahead and say I am thankful for JP on the board. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great, and I'm thankful for Phil on the mic over there.
Well, thank you very much. Now that we're all thankful, let's move on. No, but seriously, we got a great show lined up for you, and so listen. I got to tell you, today's show is going to be a little different. All right, just bear with me on that, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But we will have coming up at about an hour and a half in, we got a round of Butters and Lee. So stand by for that one. It should be good. As always on Thursday, Butters and Lee bring their commentary to the show. And sometimes it's a hoot, and sometimes we even fuss, but it's always good. And so, yeah, Butters and Lee coming up at the hour and a half mark. And then here's the deal. Normally I say the Triple Dipper. Today, I got to be honest with you, it's going to be a bit different. And I'll just go ahead and confess to my audience. I'm thankful for you because I've got some family business that I need to go out of the studio for. So part of what you're hearing today is pre-recorded so that we've got fresh material for you, but I won't be actually in the studio for a big chunk of it. That being said, there's still a lot of good stuff. So you're going to hear a Triple Dipper that's going to sort of include the monologue, Butters and Lee, and then DEI's last gasp. I'm definitely talking about that. DEI's last gasp, my gosh, folks, I'm telling you, we are watching the death throes of DEI, and it can't come quick enough. Just pull the plug already. That being said, the rest of the show, towards about the last hour, is going to be some things we said earlier in the week, but they're very timely because they're in front of the Alabama legislature right now, and the Tennessee legislature already did it. So that is going to happen on today's show. That is the full. What do you think, man? I'm still thankful, though. Are you?
I am. I'm very thankful.
Well, let's do a thing then. Yeah. And by the way, all of our usual spots are open. You can stream the show live on our social media platforms at X and Facebook and Rumble and YouTube. And then we're also on the website, rightsidemedia.org. And then, of course, on our multiple stations around the Southeast. In the meantime, though, I am going to jump right on in to the Rightside Way monologue. I will remind you guys, the Rightside Way monologue brought to you every single day by attorney Stan McDonald. Stan McDonald, who, by the way, I know personally, great guy. Stan McDonald is a longtime member of the bar in North Alabama, and he's also an OG ruffian, if you know what I mean. I'll tell you more about Stan McDonald later, but he is the sponsor daily of the Rightside Way monologue. All right, so I did a monologue back in December, I believe, of last year. And in it, I asked the question, what did you do with the kids? And it's a question that continues to need to be asked. And it must be asked because the left has not given up on trying to get our kids. And we have to be vigilant and determined in our defense of them. I don't want to have future generations look back on us and get worried looks on their faces and say, yes, but what did you do with the kids? And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I still find myself amazed at the brazenness of the left. There was a time when standards meant something, and there were lines that were not crossed. And if they were crossed, they were rightfully condemned. And perpetrators were shunned and therefore tried to keep their actions hidden and secret. Not so anymore. The left will say and do anything publicly, openly, brazenly, and they could care less what you think because the idea has somehow taken root that indefensible behavior is okay as long as you couch it as following your own truth. Somehow that's become okay. Well, let's be honest. It's still jackassery. And when it involves kids, well, then the jackassery becomes an example of the left trying to defend the indefensible. This week, the world saw some incredible displays of first world jackassery at the Supreme Court of the United States and in the State House for the Alabama legislature. In both instances, there were arguments presented from the left that sought to defend the indefensible about kids. Arguments that were argued with straight faces and somber tones as if they were carrying some great import, the gravity of which required some august rationalizations designed to overthrow thousands of years of acceptable behavior, all in favor of new fads of modern culture. Arguments that basically told the world how desperate the left is to sexualize young children. In the Supreme Court of the United States, the justices heard arguments related to a lower court case that allowed a Maryland school board to deny parents the right to opt out their kids from reading assignments in preschool classes, that were filled with alternative lifestyle dogma. There were so many verbal exchanges before the Supreme Court that raised eyebrows while the justices asked questions. But one in particular caught my attention when Justice Gorsuch asked the lawyer for the school board about one of the many LGBTQ lifestyle books that the school board insisted that all children had to participate in. Now, to be clear, there was nothing accidental about these books. They didn't get slipped into the shelves or accidentally donated to the school without somebody realizing. No. They were part of a collection that the school board approved called the, quote, Gender and Sexuality Curriculum for Children's Ages 3 to 10 years old. One of the books tasked 3 and 4-year-olds with searching out images from a word list that includes words like intersex flag and drag queen and underwear and leather, all in the name of a celebrated LGBTQ activist and sex worker. Another book advocates a child knows best approach to gender transitions, telling students that the decision to transition does not have to make sense to others. Teachers are instructed to say that doctors only guess when identifying a newborn's sex anyway. Wow. Well, the lawyer for the school board was asked directly by Justice Gorsuch about the leather reference. Leather. He tried to play it off like, well, it just meant a leather jacket. That's all, just a leather jacket. To which Gorsuch said, on a drag queen and a sex worker? But the lawyer continued by insisting that none of the information was designed to be coercive. It wasn't designed to indoctrinate. The kids might hear about this kind of stuff in the hallways from their peers anyway. Really? 3-year-olds? Because that's what the judge said then. He said, 3-year-olds? It wasn't designed to indoctrinate. They said, sure, yeah, and the sun is not really hot and the sky is not really blue. But one of the most respected and well-preserved bastions of the rule of law in the entire world, the Supreme Court of the United States, a place where allegedly legal jurisprudence is supposed to meet with common sense and render precedents that literally affect hundreds of millions of people, and then have tangential effects on billions of others around the world. The Supreme Court heard these oral arguments that young children should be taught that they can be born into the wrong bodies, and that alternative lifestyles are really appealing because, rainbows and love and leather. Sure. But listen, it's the other part of this too that bothers me. I told you there were 2 instances of what I call the jackassery of the defense of the indefensible. It's not just somewhere out there, right? It's not just some northern state school board arguing before the Supreme Court in our nation's capital. No, we have the same cringeworthy jackassery right here at home. Yesterday, in the Alabama State House of Representatives, a bill came before a House committee that has taken several years of legislative action to finally get postured for possible final vote. The bill was discussed on this show several times, including this week when I had a guest named Malia Stevens on to talk about it. Senate Bill 186 in the Alabama legislature. It's an easy bill. It's a layup. It's low-hanging fruit. All it is a requirement that porn filters that already exist on every smartphone made today be turned on at the point of sale if the phone is for a minor. If the phone is for a minor. It costs nothing. It invades no privacy. And parents who, really want their kids to see porn and can risk jail time to do it can turn the filter off if they want to. The filter's already there, y'all. But the porn industry desperately wants it to remain turned off. Why? Because they're predators, that's why. And yesterday in committee, as the bill was being considered, Democrats questioned it and complained. One said it might block kids from being able to research the Holocaust or slavery. This might be government overreach, said another Democrat for probably the first time in her entire life. I mean, to his credit, the bill sponsor kept his cool. He said that if they were actually concerned about government overreach, then perhaps we should have no age requirements at all for drinking, smoking, or anything else. Well, the bill finally came out of committee with those 2 Democrats taking what I call the cowardly road of abstaining. Basically, they were really strong against it, but they couldn't be on the record voting against it. Look, it sometimes feels like we have slipped off into some kind of post-apocalyptic mayhem. I've said before that in my opinion, there are some things for which a nation will be judged. A whole nation will be judged. Some things that future generations will look back on and literally judge their ancestors on how they responded. That's us. I believe that how we as a modern generation right now, how we act right now to care for and protect our kids, that is something that future generations will judge us for. Children in America too often face the social contagion of constant pressure to follow their own truth and to get medical interventions, even surgeries, that wind up more often than not leaving them with a lifetime of counseling and medication. We have a society right now that will tell a child that they need to understand, accept, and even participate in adult versions of sexuality, even to the extent of allowing children who cannot drive or legally sign a contract or marry or join the military or make a decision about anything, that they can make their own decisions, though, about what their biology says they are or are not. We have reached some kind of zenith of social schizophrenia. On the one hand, telling a child we will affirm them, while on the other hand, demanding they be medically altered because they were made wrong. We claim to value children as important and dear to us, and yet we callously allow big tech and big porn to hire lobbyists to whisper in our legislators' ears that it's somehow okay to abstain from a vote that does nothing except just place a fence between our kids and the most vile pornography that can warp their adult minds, even more so damage young minds. Look, we see it, we hear it, and too often in this generation, we just promptly wash our hands of it and write it off and pretend it didn't happen. But we have to rein this in. Because these kids we're talking about, they're going to be adults soon enough if they make it that far. And how will they remember their childhood? You see, kids are a gift from God. I'm thankful on this Thankful Thursday. I am thankful for kids. They are a gift from God, and we're called to be stewards of those gifts. That's why I'm concerned. I'm concerned that our nation is on the one hand doing all we can for kids. On the other hand, we're destroying them at a rate we've never seen before. Gone are the days where we can just turn a blind eye, my friends. Gone are the days where we can just shrug our shoulders and say, well, it's not my kid, so it's not my fight. Progressive liberals want our kids. They do. And if it's not your kid today, it'll be your grandchild tomorrow. It'll be that sweet neighbor kid who plays in the yard. It'll be the little minions that run around the hallways of your church or play on the playground down there on the corner, or the ones who get too loud in the grocery store. This, my friends, is a fight for all of us. It doesn't matter whether it's your child or any child at this point. As a nation, as a culture, we're going to be held accountable one day. Future generations will look back on this time, and what will they say about us? It is not enough to say that we were good stewards with our possessions, or our skills and talents, or our natural resources, or our time. One of the greatest forms of stewardship that any culture can be measured against is the simple question, what did you do with the children? And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, man, it's amazing to see that the brazenness now it's just coming out, and they're fighting for the right to indoctrinate kids. They're fighting for the right to reach kids with alternative lifestyles that violate religious principles. They're fighting for the right to be in front of your kids with things you would never want your kids to have to, or for that matter, they shouldn't have to see or hear or be a part of. I'm telling you right now, future generations, they're going to talk about us. And I hope they have the right thing to say. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, listen, we're going to talk a lot about what I just said in my monologue a minute ago, and y'all are welcome to text the show. Just keep in mind, part of what you're listening to right now was pre-recorded earlier in the day so that I could spend some time with family this afternoon for some family stuff. But in the meantime, let me just remind you, attorney Stan McDonald. Stan McDonald, I know him personally. He's a good dude, man. He's a partner at the law firm of Wilmer & Lee in Huntsville. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law. And Stan McDonald is, listen, I'm being honest when I say this. He's not only the kind of guy who can advocate for your legal needs as an attorney, but he's also been in the mix, in the fray, in the trenches on the issues that right-side ruffians care about, all the politics and policy. He's an OG ruffian from way back. That being said, Stan McDonald, by the way, has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can represent you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say that when Stan McDonald is on your side, you will have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So I'm going to tell you how to contact him, because if you need a lawyer in North Alabama, I suggest you call him. Attorney Stan McDonald. The law firm is Wilmer & Lee. He's an America First family man. Here's his phone number. You ready? 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. And here's the thing. No representation made. The quality legal service to be performed is greater than the quality legal service for the lawyers. Ooh, shabam.
You know, that may be one of your best ones yet. I give that like a 9.
I didn't think about it. I just flowed into
you
it.
just flowed right into it. That's like a 9.7 right there.
Just in the zone, dude.
You're inching closer to a 10.
It's crazy. I mean, I don't know what happens when I hit the 10. What do I do then? Do I retire?
The bit's over.
I'm just going to call Stan and say I'm done.
Yep.
All right, listen, we got plenty to talk about today. We are going to spend some time on that bill later in the show, especially. But Senate Bill 186, I want to encourage you guys, if you have contact with your legislators, if you know them personally, and a lot of you do, send them a text, send them a phone call. A text is great because it puts it into their text queue, and they might be in the middle of something else, but they can get back to it. But that bill has already made it through the state Senate finally. In fact, what they had to do was they had to actually shut down the Democrat filibuster. Believe it or not, Dems were filibustering this issue. And so they shut down the filibuster last week in the Senate and got it passed out of the Senate, and it went down to the House. Now, last year that bill passed the House, but for some reason it died in the Senate. This year it's going the opposite direction. It's now passed the Senate, but with only days left in the legislative session, they need to get this thing passed. So it's one of those things where you got to look at it and realize that time is of the essence. And I'll be honest with you, as a former state senator, I can just tell you the things that made the most difference to me in a bill in which I was unsure of something, which, by the way, I'm not sure why anybody would be unsure about this bill. But the things where I needed some input on, a text or a phone call from a well-intentioned, well-read constituent who understood the facts meant the world. I'm not talking about the screamers. I'm not talking about the ones going, you better do it or I'm going to vote you out. Screw that. That never worked with me at all. I also didn't appreciate the lobbyists who tried to weigh in and lean hard, or the 1,000 emails that all look exactly the same that come from the same place but different names attached to them. The thing that got me was a conversation or a direct message with a constituent who got it. And if you get it, if you believe like I do that these kids are our greatest resource, then you know that that bill is low-hanging fruit and we need to do it. Utah already did it. Last year we could have led the country on this. Utah went ahead and passed their bill. Now we're following them. I see no reason why this bill can't get passed. And the fact that the porn industry and high tech like Google and Apple are trying to say this is really not something you need, well then why do you put it on the phone in the first place? If it's already on the phone, then why are you concerned? All this is like, you know, the extra layer of protection that the foil inside the pill bottle provides, right? It keeps things sequestered until you're ready for it. At this time right now, kids are not ready for it. So, bottom line, we're taking a break right now. We'll come right back. We're going to jump on into Dipper number 1, talk about DEI's last gasp, and then we got plenty of other stuff on tap to include Butters and Lee. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A, y'all. I'm talking about this show. Whew. Goes from like Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border to what we now get to recall Fort Benning. And then, oh, by the way, big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. All right, jumping into what amounts to the first dipper for the day, DEI's last gasp. Is it? I mean, it's amazing how entrenched diversity, equity, and inclusion has become in our academia, in our governance, and in some of our corporate structures. I mean, I don't know that we've ever seen anything quite as viral as this. This is like the pandemic of DEI. It just ran rampant. And I mean, think about that. When have you seen something that was seemingly so benign and just sort of sprung to life, seemed to have more of a calculated, orchestrated effort to get it out there into every corner of society, especially the influential corners of society? Because if you can control academia, if you can control governance, if you can control the military, which is part of governance, but let's call it separate for this purpose, and if you can control industry and the private sector's, big box businesses, if you can control all that with a messaging point that DEI is the way to go, well then, guess what? You control the masses. You control the flow of information. I guess I should have included the media in that too, because it wasn't like they weren't complicit in some of this. But it's everywhere. And the thing is, though, there are active and engaged steps right now to dismantle DEI as we know it. And I'm so glad. And we're seeing a lot of stuff out there about how, academia especially seems rooted in this. They're just determined to go ahead and rebrand it something else and pretend they got rid of it when they really didn't. I saw a headline. Did you see the headline about Samford University, first of all, on this stuff?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. Tell me. I didn't engage that one fully, but what was the deal?
Well, so 1819 had articles talking about some classes that Samford was having involving DEI, and which, by the way,
they were pretty racy classes too, weren't they?
Yeah, it was something. It was called Hot Girl Teaching.
Hot Girl Teaching at the Baptist University.
Samford professor describes challenging conventional Christian values and conservative ideological views to promote feminism. Was the class.
At Samford University.
Hot Girl Teaching in a Faith-Based Environment was the article title.
Wait, hang on a second. Hot Girl Teaching in a Faith-Based Environment.
So I think I'm not sure if that was the exact name of the class or just the article title from 1819 News, but that is what the class was teaching about. Challenging conventional Christian values to promote feminism was the class. Which, by the way, the Samford president actually, in an email, I'm reading this from 1819
I saw a headline
News.
on that. He took issue, didn't he?
Yeah. So in an email to the board of trustees, he decried 1819 News, claiming that all of these articles were false. Just saying they had
was the class on the syllabus or not?
It was,
or on the list of curriculum or not?
It was, but I guess he's trying to say it's not DEI or I don't know. He said
then what is it?
He said it was a factual error, unfair, out of context, and at times completely false. Was the email he sent? So he's taking issue with 1819's covering of this.
Well, that's okay. Sensitive much?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, listen, the left has an obsession with DEI, and it's everywhere. Now, what you just heard right there, which I was hearing more about it than I had even known to this point, thank you, JP, that's a private, allegedly Christian university in Red State, Alabama, that was teaching a class called Hot Girl Teaching in a Faith-Based Environment. Good gosh. And by the way, I saw a picture, if I'm not mistaken, of the professor or the visiting professor, and it just told me a lot too. But
Yeah.
But the reality is this: the Trump administration came in with a mandate to do certain things. One of which was to bring back what Trump called the era of common sense. Let's talk about the military. Like, I got a piece here, and this is dated back to 2023. I hold it in my calloused former paratrooper hands. From the Washington Examiner, June of 2023, it says the title is "The Leftist Obsession with Diversity Has Conquered the U.S. Military." That's a sobering reference, but it's telling you where we've been. And oh, by the way, like I said, don't think this wasn't a calculated campaign across the broad spectrum of positions of influence to try and get DEI embedded, not the least of which was our military. So we're looking at an article right now that talks about how the female face silhouettes with a variety of skin tones, the people crowds, the people faces looking wonder, people's rights, vector illustrations, all the things, and you look at it and go, what are they doing? Why are they doing all that as opposed to talking about soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines? But we've got an article here that just talks about the fact that, like in 2020, a scholar and mentor Walter Williams wrote, "There are relatively few black fighter jet pilots," and went on to have an article that basically expounded on the fact that skin color required them to hire different people. And the fact is, if there's a conspicuous absence of any one demographic, whether it be black, white, Asian, whatever, you can certainly recruit from all those bases, but you cannot select on the basis of those demographics. That's where diversity ruins things, because diversity, the effort to pursue diversity as the sole function, destroys meritocracy. Well, what we're looking at now is a need to do away with meritocracy overall. Meritocracy is hard, by the way. Meritocracy requires you to do a good job. Meritocracy requires you to succeed. Meritocracy requires you to have some product at the end of your work day. Meritocracy might actually require you to, I don't know, work harder to keep up, or to be on time, or to be actually fully qualified for the job when you got it, and to remain qualified for the job while you're in it. Meritocracy says we promote the best, and if you're not the best, you will not get promoted as fast. Diversity says just the opposite. Diversity says, who are you? It doesn't say what do you do, it says who are you? Diversity ruins the idea of a true meritocracy, and the military is supposed to be a meritocracy. You do not want people taking the hill who got their job because they knew somebody, or because they had the right skin color, or because they came from the right place, or because they believed the right things. You want somebody who can take the hill or lead people to take the hill, who are amazingly skilled at leadership and the skills of a warrior. Now, that being said, it continued. That was June of 2023. I'm just reminding you where we've been. How about this one that I pull up from February of 2024? This is from CapTech, which is it's a journal for academia. It says new pilot diversity initiative aims to level the playing field for women and people of color. Now, let me ask you, when you get on a plane, do you look to the cockpit to make sure you've got a black pilot? Do you look to the cockpit to make sure you've got a female pilot? Or do you just hope you got a pilot that has wings on their chest that knows what they're doing?
I could really care less.
I don't even care who the pilot is.
Nope. Yeah, I'm initially looking for my seat and then ready to sit down, put my headphones on, and go to sleep.
That's right. Exactly right.
I could care less. All I hope is, like you said, that they have passed the requirements and are a competent pilot. That's all I care about.
And they show up on time for the job, and they're fully competent, and they get you there on time.
Yep.
Here's the article. According to the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics, more than 90% of all aircraft pilots are white males. When looking specifically at commercial airline pilots, estimates indicate that fewer than 7% are women, with only about 1% being women of color. Boy, they're breaking it all the way down. So now we need to make sure we have more black female pilots, because that's okay. Then he goes on to say this lack of diversity is part of a significant challenge for the aviation industry. It's not a challenge. It's not. Here's the thing. If you find out that they are excluding people because they're black or because they're women or black women, then that's a problem. But if they're saying come one, come all, meritocracy, most qualified gets the job, and they don't have any black women applicants, whose fault is that? The study goes on to say in early 2022, United Airlines launched the United Aviate Academy Flight School in Goodyear, Arizona. Its objective? To bring more women and people of color into the cockpits. What did they do? Have a women-only class? I mean, how do they do that? United Airlines recognizes the representation of diverse backgrounds and demographics in the cockpit can inspire future generations of pilots. Now, inspire, okay, I get it. Put some of them on a recruiting poster. I mean, the Tuskegee Airmen in World War II inspired people who had believed that they could never have that job to have that job and to do amazing things. And it's awesome. But we're not there. Right now, there is nothing that prevents women from being pilots. The question is, do they want to? Well, United had a goal to train 5,000 new pilots by the year 2030 and wanted at least half of them to be women or people of color. Meaning they were selecting people on the basis of gender and race, not on the basis of whether or not they could be good pilots. If you walked into okay, let's say you're going in for a surgery.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Being rolled into the surgery
You're
room.
being enrolled into surgery.
Yep.
And you look up and you see that your surgeon is a female. Do you care?
No, not really at all.
I mean, you might want to look up and go, are you good at your job?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the best. I'm the best heart surgeon in the entire world. Have at it, Doc.
Yeah. I mean, but it's like you said, if they want to do initiatives to try to encourage certain demographics to get involved in pilot programs, then that's cool. Like, great.
Yeah.
You know, but I actually will put the discrimination factor on their end because they're assuming the standards have to be lowered so that these demographics can meet the standards.
That's exactly
so that's,
right.
Insulting, on their behalf. So and we should not be selecting and excluding good pilots because they're white males.
Absolutely. Now, there's remnants of this still out there. This DEI stuff, and we're about to get to a break, but there's remnants of DEI still remaining. And I will say this, there have been state-level initiatives to include in Alabama. We have divisive concepts that are not allowed to be taught anymore. DEI offices are required to be shut down. Oftentimes, we're finding they're just rebranding them. Tennessee, AP has a story that came out just about, 2 days ago. Tennessee lawmakers adjourn their legislative session after passing their bans on DEI initiatives. So Tennessee, Alabama, two of the states that are following the lead of the Trump administrations federally, are now saying that state funding will be withheld if you are not rebranding, or doing away with your DEI concepts in government offices. So state and local governments that promote DEI in Tennessee, they're officially on notice. And I'm glad. And that kind of thing's got to continue to happen. But we're watching right now because DEI is sucking wind, but it is still hanging on by its fingernails. We're taking a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. All right, hey, just a reminder, by the way, that part of the show you're hearing today was pre-recorded earlier in the day because Phil actually has family stuff once in a while. So in order to spend time with family business, I had to ask the media business to rearrange things a little bit. Pays to be in charge. Okay, so the bottom line is I'm on this first dipper on DEI's last gasp. Now let me tell you, you're watching some serious head lopping right now. DEI is going by the wayside in many ways. There's an article here I've got from Fox. Dateline yesterday. President Donald Trump's administration is firing or reassigning over 450 employees at the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, as part of a larger push to eliminate environmental justice programs. That's a subset of DEI, if you will. That's looking at things and saying, you know, we need to do things for people because of who they are, not because of what they need. And so they try to find what they call, underprivileged or underrepresented demographics. Okay, how does that work exactly? Who gets to decide what that is? Oh, well, the government. Oh, you mean the ones who have the DEI offices? That's right. Well, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, he announced the employee moves on Monday. He said that there are 280 staffers who are being let go and 175 others that are being reassigned. And they were from the, quote, Office of Environmental Justice and External Civil Rights. This is the EPA. This is the Environmental Protection Agency. This is not an agency that is designed to promote civil rights. This is an agency that somehow had DEI embedded into it so that the regulatory burdens of the EPA could be placed upon businesses with a DEI emphasis. They could step in and decide. You remember racist roads? That's the DOT under Pete Buttigieg. The DOT, transportation, got DEI mixed in by coming in and saying, well, we believe some of these communities may have racist roads, and so we're going to spend more money there. Really? So Lee Zeldin explained at a Monday press conference that tax dollars put towards environmental justice issues were widely misspent. He says the problem is, in the name of environmental justice, a dollar will get secured and not get spent on remediating that environmental issue. He's got issues to deal with like sewage contamination that comes in from Tijuana, Mexico. He's got other things that are real that deal with actual, contaminations of waters and ground soils and other things that are actually real that the EPA is there for, to prevent pollution and contamination and long-term cleanup programs. But he said basically the EPA is no longer going to be in the business of DEI's version of environmental justice. So that good stuff is happening. You're watching as literally DEI is beginning to take its last gasps, but then you still find stuff that blows your mind. Like this from the Daily Wire. Dateline yesterday. You can tell by the sound of it, it's a thick one. I can't get into the whole thing because it's a lot. But the Department of Health and Human Services is still planning to hand out $20 million in diversity grants this year, aimed at increasing the number of minority nurses, even as the Trump administration has sought down to crack down on DEI. I don't know why they're stuck with it. I'm assuming what it is they have committed contracts and they have no choice but to follow through by law. Or maybe it was actually assigned specifically by Congress and they're stuck with it for the time being. But here's the deal. The purpose of the initiative, the headline, by the way, says how much the federal government is spending to make nurses less white. The purpose of the initiative, says Daily Wire, which is known as the Nursing Workforce Diversity Program, is to, quote, increase nursing education opportunities for individuals who are from disadvantaged backgrounds. There it is again. The government decides who's disadvantaged, and they can do whatever they want to. They can say, I think that non-binary furries are now underrepresented. Really? What can we do about that? How about some racist roads get fixed in the non-binary furry neighborhoods? Where are they? I don't know. We'll find some. Well, that's what they're doing with nursing. It's administered by the Health Resources and Services Administration, which is part of the HHS. And they sent out over $200 million in grants over the last 15 years. Applications for this are in. I'm telling you, folks, it's already got the attention of RFK Jr., who's now in charge of HHS. But the truth of the matter is this. DEI is on its last gasp, but y'all, it is digging in. It's like a cornered rat, and it is determined to try and maintain all that it can. We have got to continue the fight because here we are. We're 90 days into the Trump administration, and they're lopping the heads off of DEI departments everywhere. But we as conservatives have got to maintain the vigilance and point it out when we see it and say that's not okay. Race and gender and sexual orientation and all of it is not meritocracy, and we want a meritocracy society. All right, JP, are we taking a break, brother? All right, we're taking a break right now. We'll come right back. Next segment, Butters and Lee. Y'all stay tuned. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios, man. We got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international, and oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a Thankful Thursday. We are thankful for a lot, and by the way, I'm thankful for certain people. Like the ones I'm about to bring in. So we do a segment every Thursday. You know the deal. On Thankful Thursday, we also do a segment we call Butters and Lee. So that being said, I'm going to call the roll on 2 people who are amazing at what they do and who provide so much background commentary to what we do. Sitting here in studio with me right now, Mr. Smooth as Butter, the digital dude of Dicta. That would be Butters. Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
You like that intro?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to process that later. Exactly what was said.
All right, calling in from the northern part of our listening area, the diva of divination, the maven of madcap opinionation. That would be Lee from Huntsville. Are you there?
I am here.
I'm not sure she likes her. She had a very reserved.
No.
All right, I pronounced it. Let's do a round of Butters and Lee.
Assemble the
Oh, that's a wrong. Did you just hit the wrong?
They're right next to each
I'm
other.
still
My
thankful
apologies.
for you.
Try that one more time.
Butters and Lee. All right, you guys, you know the deal. I ask questions, you have answers. We flip the script on the second round. You ask me questions. Here's the deal. First question. Kash Patel was in Huntsville yesterday, and he exhorted the virtues of Redstone Arsenal and its impact on the FBI. He committed to building more buildings and bringing in like 500 plus more employees. Basically, it's going to be a huge installation. It's going to have an FBI campus on Redstone. I just want to know what your basic thoughts are. And Lee, I'm going to start with you because I know that you're running that ground up there. So what do you think?
Well, I mean, it's good for Huntsville. It's growth. It's kind of a southern command for the FBI. I mean, under Donald Trump and Kash Patel, I have a lot of hope that the FBI can change its image, can kind of straighten up and fly right, if you will, and not be because some of the things I've seen over the past 4 years have been concerning as far as FBI goes, and how they were using the FBI more as a wing of lashing out against political enemies.
Yeah.
And I want to see more of what the FBI used to be, because we never had that concern as far as the FBI being political, really up until the Obama years. And I want to see us go back to that. I also hope Space Command comes quickly as well. It does involve a lot of growth here, and I think Huntsville is moving as quickly as it can to accommodate the growth, and I think they're doing a good job. It just means more traffic and more houses, but I mean, if we're going to grow, I'd like to grow this way.
So how many lanes does the Parkway have to be to accommodate everybody right now, you think?
I mean, I think the Parkway's okay. Really, traffic in Huntsville is, honestly, I know people won't look at it that way, but it's not that bad. Madison is ungodly, but Huntsville, actually, the traffic is not terrible.
Well, you
And
know,
not if I've lived in places with real traffic. This is not.
yeah. And in fact, although I will say this, if you've ever tried to get in the main gate at Redstone in the morning during rush hour, good luck.
Well, I don't have to do that, so I'll take your word for it.
I was out there not long ago, and not having come and gone during rush hour to Redstone in quite a while, I got stuck, and I was literally in a line that was a mile long. And the line, by the way, was I think it was like 6 or 7 lanes wide, and it was still a mile long. I was like, my gosh, this is unreal. All right,
Wow.
Butterman, Kash Patel, FBI, big doings. What do you think?
So I guess first and foremost, the biggest thing would be don't add 500 more people to the FBI.
To the FBI.
Right. Like, so if you're going to, that's great. And, good rah for Huntsville. But don't add 500 more people to the FBI. Does not seem like, by any account or any measure, that we need to go the opposite way. So move people to Huntsville.
He was talking about transferring.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
As long as they're doing that, great. All that being said, as far as the FBI is concerned, and rah on Kash, some people need to get hauled off in handcuffs. Otherwise, I'm not really all going to, be that all excited about what's going on with the FBI. Like some people need to get handcuffed and do a perp walk for me to be super excited about the FBI.
So basically, you're saying Peter Strzok better show up sometime soon on a perp walk, or you're going to be really bothered.
Somebody. I mean, this is, but I will say, I've seen a lot of people talking on the internet, calm down, take a breath.
Yeah.
Bongino's only been there for a month,
Cash's only been there for 2 months.
Right. So I get that. But no, I mean, I don't want to take away from, it's a great opportunity for Huntsville. It makes a lot of sense to spread out. And if they're going to spread somewhere else, why not come here to Alabama?
Yeah, I think it was a coup for Alabama. I think it's one of those things too that in I know you have, Butters, maybe Lee, I don't know if you have too. We've been outside the state, and a lot of folks who've never been here before, they don't have what I would call the proper perception of what's really here. They don't know that like one of the highest per capitas of doctorate degrees in any southern city is in Huntsville, Alabama. They don't know the space program. They don't know the material command. They don't know about the FBI. They don't know that Space Command really earned the right to be here. They just think of Alabama from the 1960s, and that's not where we are anymore. And I think this is good for Alabama in many ways.
I think assuming
That's what the media does.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly.
Assuming a lot of those folks come from the D.C. area, I think they're going to be pretty happy with what they can get for their money as far as a house and
Yeah.
all that. I know, as far as Alabama is concerned, housing prices are more up there in that area. But coming from D.C., whew.
I'm going to bet there's a bunch of conversations being had over coffee in the morning at people's houses in D.C. going, I don't know, honey, but it's my job and we got to go there. And I'm sorry. But, and then they get here and they're going to go, we are never leaving. We can buy what kind of house? We can drive safely. We can, anyway, I think it's going to be.
People are friendly?
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's jump on to the next question before I run out of time. There's a bill right now that I've been really harping on the last couple of days, and we'll spend more time on it today. It's Senate Bill 186 in the Alabama legislature. Utah already did this. Alabama has now for 3 years in a row had this bill active in the legislative process. All it does is turn on an existing filter on phones for minors. Like when you buy a phone, if you're buying it for your child, at the point of sale, they have to just activate the phone and turn on the filter and give the passcode to the parents. It costs nothing. It's already there. But big tech does not want this porn filter turned on. They're fighting it, and they have for several years. In your opinion, why is big tech fighting this? You first this time, Butters.
Well, so obviously I will agree completely that we need to do everything we can to protect our kids. So I'll play a little devil's advocate on kind of understanding what my understanding is of what's going on with the tech. So how do you enforce that? First of all, not saying we shouldn't try it, but how do you enforce, a state level? Because I don't ever buy my phones from anywhere inside of Alabama. Every time I get a phone, I get it shipped to me.
That's fair.
I don't want to deal with anybody. So do they have to implement that at the national level? And as I understand, they're going to, so part of setting up the phone would be entering a birth date and an age requirement. Well, that changes the software. Not necessarily a huge deal, but you really kind of want to do that across the board. Otherwise, doing it state by state. So it does become a bit more of a technical challenge. Again, let's figure out a way, but that's what I understand is why big tech is kind of pushing back on some of this. But
I got a thought on that. I'll come back to.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely, it shouldn't be poo-pooed, shouldn't be shot down. Like, it's a good conversation that we need to be having, right? What are we doing to protect? How are we doing it? And surely, I guess my question would be, why are we not doing this at a federal level? Why are we doing this at a state level? Why are we not just doing it? If it's sold in America, this is the way it should be.
Oh, I agree with that. But right now, states are having to be the ones that do it.
Yep.
Lee, what do you think? Why is big tech balking on just turning on an existing porn filter on kids' phones?
I mean, they state privacy concerns, which is garbage, because they're spying so much on us. I mean, give me a break. They state that certain websites with like LGBTQ information will be falsely labeled as porn. I don't know about that being false. And basically, it's a lot of stuff like that. And that they're saying it's not going to work anyway because a brand new porn sites will be able to get around the filter. I just think that all of these sound like Charlie Brown's teacher to me. We need to stop kids from seeing porn. Full stop, end of story. Porn rewires their brain. They do not need to watch it. They do not need to see it. And anything we can possibly do to stop a child from seeing porn, we need to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going on with our legislature that this is, but it's like the what is the woman thing. It took 3 times to get through as well.
Oh, yeah. That's a
like,
great point.
what is wrong with us?
That's a great
What
point.
is wrong with our state legislature? This is a gimme. This is easy. Just do it. And if you don't, you damn well going to have to stand and explain to me why you want our children to see porn.
And I think perfectly well said. And to the point about whether you buy your phone out of state, the enforcement provisions of this would not hold someone liable who had no authority to make a change or did not have any interaction with the phone being set up. So if you order a phone and it comes to you as a blank slate and you're setting up your own phone, it came from out of state, I don't think they're going to hold the manufacturer accountable or the seller accountable. But in this case, although, it's not hard. If they're setting it up for you and then shipping it to you with all your device preloads, then maybe they should. But because they already collect taxes for your locale on online sales. So why can't they just go, oh, it's in Alabama. Hey, flip that switch. That's all they got to do. But at the same time, though, what we can do is put a fence around the filter in Alabama at the point of sale. Like if I go to the Verizon store and buy my phone, or somebody goes to the Apple store and buys their phone, it's too easy. We're going to activate your phone for you, sir. Would you like you to set your password up now? Okay. Did you want to go ahead and import your contacts? Certainly. And oh, by the way, is this for a child? Yes, it is. Click. That's all they got to do.
So I definitely don't want to get raked over the coals in the comments and the text. I'm not for.
Did you hear, Butters?
I
He's
don't
for it.
want our kids, but I will say, overall, we need to make sure that we're not thinking this is some easy button and that we're taking any onus off of parents. Have got to learn. You've got to learn the technology. If you're going to let the kids have the technology, you need to learn it as well.
All right, I'll leave it right there, and I agree. Parents, you better take some responsibility, but at the same time, we do regulate some things regarding kids already, so let's go for it. Let's take a break. We're taking a break right now. We'll come right back. Round 2, Butters and Lee. This is where they flip the script and ask me questions, and I just hold my breath and wait sure I got an answer. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just saving the world, one soundbite at a time. All right, round two, Butters and Lee. So I think I went Butters first last time, so I'll say, Lee, you first this time. What question do you have for moi?
So Pope Francis just recently departed.
Yeah.
And I know that there are some Roman Catholics that were less than thrilled with him as a pope because of his kind of leftist nature, and they were hoping they'd bring some more, conservative candidates back in. But considering Francis nominated or put in place 110 of the 130-something voting cardinals, what do you think the chance is that we're going to get anything but just exactly Pope Francis all over again?
It's funny you say that. So, so Pope Francis, he definitely was, he leaned more towards the progressive left on what I would call the social issues. And he raised the ire of a number of people around the world to include, adherent Catholics. And people don't realize, by the way, sometimes you got to stop and think the Catholic Church, and I don't say this with any kind of animus at all. I'm just saying in reality, the Catholic Church, its size and scope and influence is bigger than most countries in the world. They have amazing influence, and the Pope knows that. And basically, he's been given the authority to say and do certain things. My hope, and I did see one commentator the other day said that he's hearing from within leadership of the Catholic Church that there is a move towards a more conservative adherence to Scripture, presentation of the gospel, and getting back to the basics, and so I'm hoping that's what's going to happen. The one place too that he really drew a lot of ire was on the question of illegal immigration. He was very soft on it. In fact, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he even called out the Trump administration for its desire to do mass deportations and that kind of thing, and yet had a very cordial visit the day before he died with Vice President J.D. Vance, which I thought was very cool and very classy. And it's a clear indication that you can disagree on certain topics and still sit down together and recognize the basics that you share. So yeah, to answer your question, my hope is to see what I would call a more conservative, traditional pope. And I'm not Catholic, so I got no say in it, but I can pray for it. And I think I speak for a lot of Catholics who feel the same way. That's what they would want too. What you got on Butters? I
was just going to say, having served on a few pastoral search committees, can you imagine the politicking?
Oh, it's epic.
Yeah, that's got to be pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy, but I love the fact too that when they take them inside, first thing they did, they actually scanned the room for bugs. I saw that on a report today. They scanned the room for bugs. They sealed off certain doors so they couldn't be used. And they take up all phones. When the cardinals go in for these conclaves, they are isolated from the world, and so the politicking occurs within that group as opposed to the broader world. All right, Lee, before I run out of time, I got to move over to the Butterman. But did you have any comment real quick on your question?
No, I just imagine, Butters, if you're in a pastoral search committee and you're all locked in there together until you find somebody.
Folks, the soccer game starts in a little while. We got to get done. All right, let's jump over to Butterman. What you got for me, bud?
All right, so Hegseth.
Yeah.
The Pentagon.
Yeah.
So I listened to one of the guys that was removed, his interview with Tucker Carlson. Seems like an interest. Seems like there's more going on. And because he worked with Hegseth for 10 years, enlisted Marine. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on what's going on behind the curtain with all of this stuff?
I don't think there's near as much behind the curtain as the media would want you to believe. I don't think you're going to have a group of type A personalities and not have some disagreement. I don't think you're ever going to have an organization where the guy at the top doesn't draw some fire from the people who serve under him or her. And that being said, I think the rank and file, though, by and large, the people that should matter in this are generally speaking favorable towards what Hegseth's been able to do. Recruiting numbers show it. And to the main point here, his boss, President Trump, has openly expressed his satisfaction with the job performance thus far. So, me personally, I talk to a lot of folks still in the rank and file. I'm sure you do too. And everything I'm hearing right now is thumbs up. We're okay. But the media does not want that. And I think the media still remembers the halcyon days of getting rid of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. And they're hoping they can find a way to pick off another one. And the worst thing Trump could do was believe for a second that if he gave them another one of his guys, that it would stop there. Rightside Radio. We will be right back.
will be a replay from earlier this week, but it's all still stuff current and important, so it will still be a great listen. But we appreciate you guys on this Thankful Thursday for bearing with us. But in the meantime, please enjoy the rest of the show.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. Goes from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn. And yes, straight across the border from there to what we now call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. Next topic, Dipper number 2, alien enemies. And by the way, there's a breaking story that just came out. Fox News has the exclusive on this. Go figure, they got the exclusive. But Fox News has the exclusive. It's on the website right now. I don't have it in my calloused former paratrooper hands, but I will tell you what it says. Exclusive. The FBI assesses that some Venezuelan government officials likely facilitated the migration of members of the violent gang Tren de Aragua from Venezuela to the United States in order to advance the Maduro's regime's objective of undermining public safety in the U.S. Think about that. That means there were actual government officials with a stated purpose of we're going to make it more difficult for Americans to live in their own country. We're going to ship them some of our most violent gang members. Tren de Aragua. Listen, Alien Enemies Act applies. The Alien Enemies Act of 1798 changes the status of certain people. If they are found here in the United States, they can be immediately gathered up and deported without the usual due process requirements. It's got the liberals up in arms because the liberals who wanted no due process on getting them in wants all kinds of due process to get them out. They don't want to wait in line to come in, but they just want to wait in line before they have to go out. I mean, think about that. It's just asinine. But Phil, they're here now. It applies. Does it really? Under the Alien Enemies Act, it does not. But Phil, they're not really enemies. We're not at war with Tren de Aragua. Are we not? Really? Here's my point. And I've said it before on the show, but I haven't heard nobody else saying this, so I'm just going to go ahead and claim it. If you look at the non-state actors that are considered to be enemies of the United States, like I said, non-state actors. In other words, they are entities, but they are not geographically bound entities. You've got Al-Qaeda. You've got ISIS. You've got any number of other terrorist organizations that have no geography of their own. The Houthis. Oh, but Phil, they're in Yemen. No, they don't. They're not the Yemeni government. The same with, now Hamas maybe because they're technically the government of Gaza, the Palestinian Authority. But Hezbollah, no. The same with the drug cartels and the same with Tren de Aragua and the same with MS-13. These are violent entities that have organizational effort and they are a danger and a threat to the United States. And Trump has declared them to be enemies of the state. I love it. In fact, I'm still waiting for somebody to laze the target and drop a JDAM right down the middle of the chimney of a drug cartel's, lair in Mexico. I'm for it. In the meantime, the FBI has just released a report that says they believe the Venezuelan government actually facilitated members of Tren de Aragua coming here because they had a stated purpose of wanting to undermine public safety in the U.S. That is amazing. Now, let's talk about this for a little bit. The Alien Enemies Act. Who's the poster child for that right now on the Democrat side? Who's their hero? Who's their puppy they must save? Who's their cause celeb right now? Well, it's, you know him, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Just so you know, I got a piece here from Newsbusters. They did a complete review. The two most liberal cable networks, CNN and MSNBC, have basically misrepresented the story of Kilmar Abrego Garcia multiple times. A total of 506 times they referred to him as the Maryland man.
The Maryland father.
The Maryland father, the resident of Maryland. He was described as being from Maryland nearly 5 times more often than he was described as being from El Salvador. He's an illegal alien from El Salvador who happened to be living in Maryland. 10% of the 318 reports about Garcia on CNN and MSNBC included any mention that he was in the U.S. illegally. And by the way, there's no supposition on that. He was in the U.S. illegally by his own admission. He was already on ICE's detainer list. He had been detained in 2019 and was released on parole and thereafter sought asylum because he was scared to go home because there's a gang out there that might want to get him. Barrio 18 was after him. CNN and MSNBC coverage of Kilmar Abrego Garcia just from the first 2.5 weeks of April. 506 times they called him the Maryland man, the Maryland father, or some other misleading term. In 161 stories, MSNBC only bothered to mention 11 times that he was in the U.S. illegally. CNN mentioned him 21 times across as being illegal across 157 different segments. It goes on. I don't need to keep saying it. But, I know what. Let me do this, though. Garcia's wife filed a protective order. State of Tennessee detained him on concerns about human trafficking. MSNBC only mentioned that 5 times. CNN only mentioned it 25 times. It's unreal. But what we're looking at right now is the Alien Enemies Act. It's probably one of the most artful means of using existing law to do the things that the people of this nation voted for their leaders to do. Let's not lose sight of that. This is not Trump going, I got a Trump thing. I'm doing a Trump thing. You do you, I'll do me. No. He got an overwhelming vote on one of the top issues being, at all times, being the illegal immigration issue. That and the economy, top 2 issues. Stephen Miller, who works for the Trump administration as a U.S. Homeland Security advisor, Stephen Miller has been wearing liberals out. Now, that guy talks so fast I can't hardly keep up sometimes.
He's he almost talks more like Trump than Trump does sometimes, of like the finger animations and all. Yeah, he's great.
But his command of facts is unparalleled. He can regurgitate some facts. Like I look at it, I hear him say things sometimes and I go, whew, wish I'd said that.
Yeah.
So he slammed the Democrat Party on their opposition to the Alien Enemies Act. He said this, he said, quote, on a Fox News interview, he said, I think it's emblematic of the fact that the Democrat Party has been thoroughly and completely radicalized. They're an open borders party. They're a communist party. They're a party that excuses violence and left-wing terrorism. They're a party polling at 21%. And then he went on to say, if they keep fighting to spring illegal alien gang members loose from foreign countries and bring them back to terrorize our families, that 21% is going to go down to 15 or 10 and lower because Americans, above all else, expect their government to keep them safe. Yeah, what you're watching right now, that is one of the prime functions of government. You know, I'm not a big government guy. You probably gathered that by now. I'm not a big government guy. But I do agree that government is a necessary thing. And in being a necessary thing, government has what are known as essential functions. The essential functions of government, what are they? Well, it depends on whether it's local, state, or federal. But one of the essential functions of government is the police power to enforce crime, to enforce the laws against crime, and to provide a measure of safety for the citizens who pay their taxes and live peacefully. At the local level, that means a police department. At the federal level, that can mean the FBI, the CIA, the military, all of it. But what I'm saying is, what Trump is doing is exactly what not only did we vote for him to do, it's what he's required to do. He has to. It's part of his constitutional mandate. Now, the whole thing about whether or not they can deport gangs under the Illegal Aliens Act has become a judicial tennis match. It's back on, it's back off. It's back on, it's back off. So Trump finally lashed out. You know, we had the Supreme Court saying, good to go, you can pursue it. Then they came back and said, stop what you're doing. We need to give you more direction on whether there needs to be full due process. Well, Trump's finally had enough. Never wanted to hold back. He finally just said, this is ridiculous, which is, yeah, that's pretty spot on. Trump said, we cannot give everyone a trial because here's the thing. There's millions. There are millions. There are hundreds of thousands right now that are illegal alien gang members. And he says, if we gave every single one of them a trial, it would take, without exaggeration, 200 years. It said we would need hundreds of thousands of trials for the hundreds of thousands of illegals that we're sending out of the country. Such a thing is not possible. What a ridiculous situation we're in. Make America great again. This is in relation to the Supreme Court stepping out basically after midnight on Friday night, it's a Saturday morning, and blocking the Trump administration's efforts to try and deport a batch of illegal aliens. And they were all gang members headed to the Secot prison in El Salvador. I do appreciate, though, the fact that Justice Samuel Alito did not take kindly to the way this all went down. I mean, at first you had Judge Boasberg got slapped around by the Supreme Court. The Trump administration was challenging his attempts to enjoin the activities of the Alien Enemies Act being used. And the Trump administration successfully argued that, they gave them advance notification. They allowed them to challenge their detention and deportation. They gave them the whole right to file habeas claims. And the Supreme Court agreed. And then the Supreme Court appeared to change things. ACLU filed a request for intervention. There were 50 Venezuelan immigrants about to be deported from the Bluebonnet Detention Center in North Texas. And the Supreme Court of the United States said, stop what you're doing there, Trump. Hold what you got. Don't send them out yet. And now Trump is like, now what? This is what we call a disparity in the law. They've already said he could. Now they say he can't. Now they're going to come back and say he can, but only with due process. And they're not going to define what due process means. How much due process do they have to have? And oh, by the way, since you said I could use the Alien Enemies Act, which says they don't have to have due process, then what measure of due process are you going to require? So the end result is he's not stopping. And that's the important part. He is not stopping. When I get back from this break, I'll tell you about a few things that are going on right now. But we did have a victory. We did have a couple of victories. And we also got some new use of the Alien Enemies Act on a group that we haven't seen before. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey folks, this is JP here. Like Phil said earlier in the show, he had a family matter to attend to, so the second half of the show will be a replay from earlier this week, but it's all still stuff current and important, so it will still be a great listen, but we appreciate you guys on this Thankful Thursday for bearing with us, but in the meantime, please enjoy the rest of the show.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. All right, so I was just before the break, I was telling you there's two bills right now floating their way through the Alabama legislature. Two bills just recently passed, like in the last couple of days, the Alabama Senate. One is Senate Bill 186. It's the bill that requires turning on the filters that already exist on smartphones and tablets. It's not hard. It's like, it doesn't hurt you. It doesn't diminish things. It doesn't cost you anything. It's already there. It just says at point of sale, you got to turn it on, and the parents have to have the password if you're under 18 to turn it back off. It keeps kids from stumbling into porn. That's a big deal. All right, the other bill is Senate Bill 187. Senate Bill 187, which passed overwhelmingly, would require app stores. You know, you go online to the Play Store or wherever, or the Apple App Store, and then and kids sign up for stuff. And kids sign up for stuff not knowing that they're entering into a contract agreement sometimes, or that it's going to cost them things, or that they just engage a subscription. You know, sometimes their parent's credit card is tied to their smartphone, and next thing you know, the parent's credit card is being hit with charges. Well, minors can't. And by the way, some of these things are also, you're downloading stuff that they shouldn't be on. And there should be a standard. Well, why anybody would be scared of this, I don't know. Just all it's doing is saying we want the app stores to have to say, are you over the age of 18 in Alabama? That's all we want it to say. And I'll say this, Senator Clyde Chambliss, I know Clyde, he's a good guy from Prattville, says this is important because children, minors, are not of an age and maturity and intellect to be able to enter into contracts or to read and understand these contracts. They're even hard enough for adults. And that's a great point. Why would we not protect kids?
We actually got a comment on our YouTube live stream about this. The quote, drumming Marine is his name on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
says I entered into a quote contract once with Columbia House. They wanted their penny, by golly.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He also said,
okay, I've seen that one.
So contracts for minors isn't a new thing, even though 99% have said minors have no idea what a contract even is. Hardly any consequences to bad agreements, i.e. student loans.
You know what's funny? Now that you say that, there's a breaking news right now. I'm looking at it on my screen sitting here that says, breaking news, President Trump will resume collection of outstanding and defaulted student loan payments beginning May 5th. It's like, it's going to be a hard wake up for some people. So there's that. But the other piece, Columbia House, do you even know what that is?
Nope.
Okay. So back in the days when we got our music through like records and CDs and cassette tapes, and even 8-tracks. I am there. I'm 8-track man. There's a company called Columbia House that would send you stuff in the mail, and they'd say, for 1 penny, pick your top 10 albums. But to do so, you had to sign up a subscription, and then every month you had to pick what they would send you, or they would send you something automatically and bill you. And so basically, if you're not careful, you're going to wind up getting, some cheesy band you never would have wanted, unless you told them for a fact all you wanted was like classic rock or whatever else. And so, but Columbia House, so I did it. I can't tell you. You get the 10 CDs and then hope they never follow up. Well, no, by God, they want their penny. They're going to get that penny. And then they're going to get that $19.99 per every month too, just to keep. And then your parents wind up having to get you out of it.
If you don't choose what you want them to send, do they send you something by like the original artists?
Yeah, that's right. There's that. Yeah, I'm still emotionally scarred from that one. All right, listen. When we get back, we're going to be talking to Malia Stevens. She's amazing. She does amazing work. She does work that. I used to work in an adolescent treatment center. I know how hard it is to work with kids who've been abused and who have been put through things that no kid should have to see. But she does it even on levels that I never did. She's a licensed counselor, and she's got a real heart for kids, and she's got a real heart for protecting kids, and she cares deeply about these bills I just told you about in the Alabama legislature. We'll talk to Malia Stevens right after this.
Hey folks, this is JP again. I just want to remind you guys the last half of this show will be a replay from earlier this week. But you guys are texting in, and great text coming in. So while we got a minute here, I want to read some of those off. Paul in Decatur texts in, says, sounds like Venezuela and their Trendy or Wagra scums are doing psyops in the U.S. Yeah, that would not surprise me at all. Those folks do not deserve due process, in my opinion. Scott from Huntsville texted in, said they need to call these Supreme Court justices and federal court justices before the Senate Judiciary Committee and grill them by making them justify their unconstitutional rulings under oath. Yep, I would agree with that. John from Huntsville texted in, says Butters wins the Butters and Lee segment. Well, there you go. Jason from Huntsville texted in and says, Phil, the only reason I think that big tech would push back on something like this is due to the third-party software developers creating something that conflicts with their operating systems or their operating software, talking about the ability to have a porn filter for children on their phones. If anything, this capability should be a part of the operating system for the phone as it comes from the big tech manufacturers in order to avoid software conflicts or a suppression of big tech capability. In other words, to ensure compatibility. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense to me why this bill is such a big problem in the first place, but appreciate you, Jason. Let's see here. Tom with all the kids says, some states can force us to buy a 10-round magazine. The phone companies can give us a protected phone. Yep, I agree with that completely. And last text here from Hugh from Huntsville. FBI, move here. Don't bring your blue politics. Yep, I would agree with that as well. That's a good text to end it on. But, folks, again, appreciate you guys on this Thankful Thursday. Bearing with us here. Phil had a family matter to attend to, so the last half of this show will be a replay, like I said earlier. But a great interview coming up with Malaya Stevens talking about this porn filter we were just talking about. So make sure to stay tuned and enjoy the rest of the show, you guys.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome back to hour number 2 on what is often referred to as a Taco Tuesday, because it's always about the food, it seems like. But I tell you what else is about. This dipper that I'm doing right now, I'm calling it Protecting Kids. And there is... This is okay. So let me back up. Use your words, Phil. Kids are a gift from God. They just are. And anybody who tells you different just doesn't know. The end result is that kids are our greatest resource. They are a joy and a blessing. You know, I've heard it said that anyone can be a father, but it takes someone special to be a dad. And that's because raising kids is an honor and a blessing. And so is working with kids. And protecting kids is actually a duty and a responsibility. Well, sometimes it's the things that happen in culture, but sometimes it's official legislative action, things that happen in government. And I told you about a few things before we got going, but let me just go ahead and bring somebody in now who has really been in the mix, in the fray, and been on the show several times over the last couple of years. Malia Stevens. So Malia Stevens, you may recall, she's a licensed counselor with Wellspring Christian Clinic in Birmingham. She's got her undergrad from Samford University. She got her master's in marriage and family therapy from Abilene Christian University in Texas. And she is also, by the way, a board member on the National Center for Sexual Exploitation in Washington, D.C. She does work that I don't know that I could possibly do. And she cares deeply about her mission in life. Let me bring her on. Malia Stevens, how are you doing?
Hey, Phil, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for making some time. Listen, my friend, I think it's important for people to understand maybe your background and your mission in life. So before we even get into the legislation, would you just kind of remind folks who you are and what you do?
Certainly. I'd be happy to. Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm a marriage and family therapist, a wife and a mom, and since I was a little girl, I knew I wanted to work with families in some capacity. I used to listen to Dr. Dobson on the radio, actually, and I was like, I want to do that one day. And so I love working with families. I really do love seeing families and relationships strengthened. But over the course of the 25 years I've been in private practice, from the very beginning, I was seeing cases where pornography was, just destroying lives, harming lives, hurting marriages, and seeing it affect couples and individuals. But over the years, I was seeing younger and younger people who were really being devastated by exposure to hardcore addictive content. And it kind of came to a head between 2009 and 2011. I was seeing families who brought in young children. I don't really specialize in young children, but I work mostly with adults and teenagers. But they just brought in some children because they knew I worked with these types of cases who were addicted to pornography, like little girls, little boys, ages 6 to 11, who after 1 or 2 exposures to hardcore pornography had gotten hooked and had their frontal lobe hijacked by this material, and they were falling into these patterns of child-on-child harmful sexual behavior, which is really common when a child is exposed to pornography because it kind of traumatizes them. That's how they cope with it. So I was seeing these cases, and it was just heartbreaking. These were good kids from good homes, but they were in this pattern, and they were going to great lengths to get their hands on pornography because they couldn't get it at home at this point. And so I was seeing how much of a hold it had. And at the same time, I was working with 3 survivors of sex trafficking, 2 of whom had been forced to create pornography against their will when they were captive. One was a male, one was a female. And so my mind was just kind of exploding with understanding the overlapping influence of pornography and all the different types of sexual exploitation, how they're interconnected. So I was crying all the time, basically, and the Lord broke my heart over it. And I was like, okay, God, I've got this burden. What do you want me to do with it? And he was like, well, you're going to raise awareness. You're going to do something with it. So long story short, that's how I began to get connected with the National Center on Sexual Exploitation back in 2012. And since then, we've done many campaigns and worked on legislation. In 2020, we passed a resolution to declare pornography a public health crisis in Alabama.
Yeah.
And we've been working diligently on some other measures to protect kids online. but we fight some heavy opposition, and so, but it's been good, and I think our state's come a long way in terms of their awareness and desire to see things shift for children in particular.
Well, I'll never forget. And I think I mentioned this to you once before you were on the show. My daughter, who's an adult now, was doing a school project, and I want to say she was like maybe 10 years old, and she had to do a story on the White House. And you may know where I'm going now. She just innocently went online with no intent to look up anything illicit and stumbled into it without knowing, because some of these sites, they know exactly what they're doing. They put themselves out there in such a way that they can be stumbled upon easily. And my daughter was so upset because she literally just found herself on a website that just was horrible for her, and it was a porn site that called itself White House dot something, and all said and done, sometimes there's the actual exploitation. Other times there's the preventable accidental things that can lead to bigger problems if we don't just take the easy steps to prevent them, and that's what this legislation we're looking at right now does in the State House. It's so easy, and it's also been
really
resisted
is.
the last few years.
Right. Yeah, it really is. And you're right to share that story about your daughter, because the pornography industry really comes after children. They target children. And you may have seen the Senate hearings of, I guess it was last year, where like Ted Cruz and Marsha Blackburn and several others had social media execs on the stand and calling them out for how they've knowingly allowed children to be exploited on their platforms, and basically said you've got a profit target on each child, like you see them as a profit target. And that is truly the case. Unfortunately, the more you get behind the scenes, the more you see that this is really not just accidental. It's pretty sinister on the part of big tech and the pornography industry in many cases. They want to data mine our children. They want to sell the data. They want to have, the pornography industry wants to hook our kids as early as possible because they make more money off of them.
Yeah.
And it's pretty evil. And we, at every hearing, we've got lobbyists on the other side representing Apple, Google, the pornography industry, and oftentimes AT&T, sometimes Verizon, things like that. And then on our side, you've got parents and medical professionals and tech and legal experts demonstrating why this is so simple and why it's so needed. But it's pretty cut and dry between the two different sides of the issue as it relates to the innocence and the protection and the well-being of our children.
Well, and I look at it too, and I realize you know the deal. Like you can, if you're online shopping, if you go to a website, next thing you know, all of your ads and everything else, they begin to geo-target you. So it's not just the site itself. Sometimes it's all the stringers that grab hold of the site, and like you said, they data mine, and next thing you know, they're flooding your home internet with things that you almost can't avoid it at some point if you're not careful. So let me ask you this. Senate Bill 186 is the one you and I have talked about before. It should have already passed. But right now it has passed the Senate, and we're moving towards the House. Talk about that one first. That's the one that has the porn filter that all it has to do is be engaged.
Exactly. So it's called the Safer Devices for Kids Act. And you're right, it's Senate Bill 186, and it is being carried by Senator Clyde Chambliss and Representative Chris Sells in the House. And the last 2 years, that bill, identical pretty much, the last 2 years passed unanimously through the House, but it was not allowed for a final vote in the Senate. So opposition forces were able to kind of snuff it out in the Senate. This year, through a really dramatic effort from Senate leadership, it was able to make it through the Senate, and now we're going to be working our way back through the House. So I'm hopeful that since it's already passed the House the last 2 years, it will make it across the finish line this year. But you're right, it really should have already passed, and had it already passed and gone into effect, young children would really be protected by this bill, because all that it does is it requires that device manufacturers, whenever a device like a tablet or a smartphone is activated for a minor in the state of Alabama, the existing filtering technology will just simply be defaulted on instead of it being off as it is now. And so an adult can turn it off later if they want to with a passcode, but a child will be handed a safer device. And, older kids can maybe figure some things out, but younger children in particular are going to be, all kids will be better protected, but it's a layer of protection for young children so they don't stumble on it, because 47% of the time kids are going to accidentally stumble upon pornography on smartphones and tablets when they're young.
What's crazy is that filter already exists, like you said. It comes from the manufacturer. When you get the phone at the point of sale, it's already on the phone, which is a clear indication that they know that people want this, but they just don't tell you it's there. It's kind of like selling shoes that have shoelaces, but nobody ties the shoes. I mean, it's designed to do something, and it's there for a reason.
It's like selling somebody a car, but putting the seat belts, they're not connected and they're in the back of the trunk or something.
Yes.
And you got to go read the manual and figure out how to put your seat belts on.
That's better than my shoes and shoelaces. Yeah.
Well, yours was good too.
Well, all right. Listen, this bill is moving, and I'm prayerful and hopeful that it's going to finally pass. And shame on them if it doesn't. But the other bill, which is new, Senate Bill 187, at least new to me, Senate Bill 187 just passed the Senate also, and this requires the App Store to do age verification. Tell me about that one real quick.
This one is awesome. It's much more it's more comprehensive. They're both important. We need both of them, but this one is really great because, and both of these bills have already passed Utah, and the app bill is currently progressing really well in Texas, just by the way. But this one, it requires that the device manufacturers and the app developers work together to better protect children. And essentially, it's going to empower parents as well, because right now children can go onto they can purchase an app without necessarily having parental approval. A child can't go into a store and buy cigarettes or alcohol, and they can't go into a bank and sign a contract, for a loan. But they're essentially going into contract with these multi-billion-dollar companies whenever they sign up for an app, and children can't consent to that. So this bill is really focused on consent law, and it's requiring that the device manufacturers notify the app developers, hey, this is a minor that's about to try to sign up for your app, and then the parents have to be notified at every single time. The parents have to be notified, and they can either accept or deny request. And then also the other thing that is amazing is that it's going to require these app developers to actually have accurate age ratings, because right now they can put any age rating they want to on them. It's just completely subjective, and you've got so many apps that are marketed as safe for children, but they're actually breeding grounds. They're places where predators are really coming after our children at younger and younger ages. So it's going to tighten up all that and just make it a safer digital environment for our kids.
Well, I am hopeful. So let me ask you this. We got about maybe a minute and a half here. What's your expectation? Because we're down to the wire. We got, maybe 1 week worth of legislative action potential here left. And and what are you hearing? Because they're through the Senate, and I think you told me offline that the Senate bills are what's going to travel now. We're gonna move those. So what's your anticipation regarding when they'll come to the floor, and what kind of promises, or for that matter, fears, are you hearing from leadership?
I'm hearing that we're still going to have to battle Apple and Google, and perhaps some of the pornography industry and AT&T as well, but Apple and Google in particular for both bills, but especially the app bill. And they don't want to be regulated. They don't want to lose access to our kids. They don't want to have any kind of. They're one of the only entities that's not regulated in any way, shape, or form, and they don't want to have that happen. So they're fighting us really hard, and we need our legislators to understand that parents. I'll say this too. We've done polling. 83% of Alabama residents, Republican and Democrat, want to see these bills pass. But we need our legislators to understand that they're being, really watched. Are they going to align with big tech and the pornography industry? Are they going to align with our children and our families? So we're going to have a battle. We know that there's still going to be an effort to stall it and potentially kill it. So if your listeners would not mind taking the time to call Speaker Ledbetter's office, other leadership, and just let them know that you care about these bills, that you really want to see them cross the finish line this year.
Yeah, that's the Senate Bill 186 and the Senate Bill 187. And what are the nicknames for the bills? You called them something a moment ago.
The App Store Accountability Act is Senate Bill 187.
Yeah.
And the Safer Devices for Kids Act is Senate Bill 186.
Okay. All right. Listen, Malia Stevens, would you please just kind of keep us posted? And if you see things moving or not moving, we'll jump you back on the air at a moment's notice and keep the audience updated on this, okay?
That would be awesome. Thank you so much, Phil.
All right. Malia Stevens, licensed professional counselor at Wellspring Christian Clinic. We appreciate your work, and we'll have you back on. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Rand Long coming back for a short segment. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey folks, this is JP here. Like Phil said earlier in the show, he had a family matter to attend to, so the second half of the show will be a replay from earlier this week, but it's all still stuff current and important, so it will still be a great listen, but we appreciate you guys on this Thankful Thursday for bearing with us, but in the meantime, please enjoy the rest of the show.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, just pulling pins on truth grenades in here. So, all right, I ran long because I wanted to get as much time as I could for Malia Stevens to outline those bills and the need. And I hope y'all got the grasp of what's happening right now. We have two major pieces of legislation that are like low-hanging fruit easy. They are just like too easy for anyone to ever avoid. And what's happening right now is, I guarantee you, what I'm hearing, by the way, is that the bill that has the App Store discussion wrapped in it, has the App Store age verification wrapped in it, that leadership is not sure, that would be Speaker of the House, Nathaniel Ledbetter, is not sure he wants to pass that one. It may be too much. Why? I mean, because Apple might say something about it, because, Google might say something about it. Listen, the bottom line is this: it's for our kids. I will point out too, on a sidebar note here, that case with with the Supreme Court today, Justice Kavanaugh asked the question pointedly. He said they're not asking you to change what's taught in the classroom. They're just wanting to walk out, their children to walk out so they're not exposed to things contrary to their beliefs. It's not hard. It's really not. Taking care of kids, it's not rocket science. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey folks, this is It will still be a great listen, but we appreciate
this show. Woo. It goes radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right.
Hey folks, this is JP here. Like Phil said earlier in the show, he had a family matter to attend to, so the second half of the show will be a replay from earlier this week, but it's all still stuff current and important, so it will still be a great listen, but we appreciate you guys on this Thankful Thursday for bearing with us, but in the meantime, please enjoy the rest of the show.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, just pulling pins on truth grenades in here. So, all right, I ran long because I wanted to get as much time as I could for Malia Stevens to outline those bills and the need. And I hope y'all got the grasp of, like, man, just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. Woo. It goes from like Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I'm talking about from all the way down to that beautiful, that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border. And now what we also once again call Fort Benning, Georgia. And yeah, big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. Big old footprint, big old right side footprint. All right, got a few text messages. Let me get a little bit of those. Jeremy from Madison said earlier on my legal disclaimer for Stan McDonald, he said a perfect 10. He said a perfect 10.
It was good. It was a good one. I feel like, though, part of me thinks if I give you a 10, then the bit's over. It's done.
I feel like you're poo-pooing my perfect 10. That's what
You know, if you want a participatory 10 from the...
a participatory 10. Are you saying I just got a participation trophy? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not. I didn't say that, no. Sounds like you're taking my words out of context.
Yeah, okay. Michael from Madison just said, I bet that a Supreme Court case isn't going our way. We won't hear anything about it till June, but if it looks like it's leaning our way, someone's going to leak it to the press and make it big to rile up attention. Well, there's that, although there's really truly only been one leak, and that was Roe v. Wade, which was a generational case. So we'll see. By the way, why don't we know who leaked that? That's really unconscionable. I mean...
It's true. I guess we still don't know.
We don't know.
No.
They won't tell us. I mean, the potential is there that they don't know either, but I'm betting they do.
Surely, right?
Yeah.
They have to know. Tom,
with all the kids up yonder in Huntsville, says, my first Columbia subscription was cassette tapes. Yeah, buddy. And listen, I don't know how Columbia House did what they did, but they sold a bunch of albums and they gave away a bunch for free. And then they came after you to get it back. And then they'd find out, oh, you're under the age of 18. Come it.
Rats.
Like, well, you entered into a contract with a minor who had no authority to enter into a contract under the lies of the law. So sorry for your luck. But no, it really was pretty awful, to be honest with you. All right, listen, we're going to switch gears. I'm going to Dipper number 2. So the fake outrage on Pete Hegseth. My gosh. Have you ever seen a bigger feeding frenzy? They are so in need of someone to basically put on the chopping block, and I mean literally the knives are out right now for Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and I believe that what we're looking at is what I would call fake outrage, absolutely fake outrage. This is in my opinion, it's not about Pete Hegseth has got Signal Gate. He said things he shouldn't have said on Signal. Oh, come on. Where were you when, you got Swalwell sleeping with Fang Fang, the Chinese spy, right? Where were you when Adam Schiff is leaking to the media that he's seen the evidence and there was nothing there? Where were you when 21 different members of the intelligence community were saying there's nothing to see here with regards to the Hunter Biden laptop because it's all really just classic Russian disinformation? I mean, the absolute, just hypocrisy of the left when it comes to things like, I don't know, intelligence and leaks is just completely unhinged right now. But that's not really the issue, is it? It's not about that. It's not about at all whether or not something was said on Signal that should or should not have been said, which, by the way, is arguable about whether it could or should not have been said. What we're really talking about here is A, the left hates Trump, and B, the left hates warriors. That's my opinion. The left hates Trump. I don't think anybody can argue that. And the left hates warriors. That's my opinion. And look, I'll be honest with you. I'm a third-generation Army officer. I'm a veteran of 2 wars. And I'm ready to see the U.S. military completely restored to its full capacity with its sole mission being building up warriors who will defeat and deter the enemies of our nation. Just saying. And so, like I said, this is not about Signalgate. This is about the left losing their social experimentation petri dish known as the U.S. military and also hating Trump at the same time. And if you watch Pete Hegseth right now, by the way, watch how the troops respond to him. You watch. Tell me when the troops respond to him that that's not legit. When he gets out there and he shakes hands with them and he looks them in the eye and he speaks their language and he jumps down and does push-ups with them, when he goes running with them, when he's there to give them an award, when he's approachable, when he's wearing a baseball hat, I mean, listen, he's their guy. And I think that the left would do well to recognize that the rank and file likes this guy. They're inspired by this guy. Morale, generally speaking, among the ranks in all branches of the service is higher than it's been in years. Recruiting is going through the roof. Accountability is finally back in vogue. People are being held accountable. And I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Military leaders at all levels who cannot support the idea of there being a warrior ethos or are having, the whole fool around and find out thing is coming back to bite them in a big way, as they find out that they don't have the DEI backing of the old, liberal squishy Pentagon of the Biden administration anymore. Hegseth is, first of all, Hegseth's going to survive this. The Trump administration has been very adamant that they don't see the issue and that this is a whole lot to do about nothing. This is the left needing a target. The left has two targets right now. One is Abrego Garcia, who's sitting in a prison down in El Salvador, and they're desperate to get him back because they need a poster boy. And if they get him back up here, you mark my words, it'll be nothing but one press conference after another. He'll be on every liberal talk show. He'll be talking about how life was so hard he didn't understand. He was a good citizen. He was just trying to be a good man, a good father. He was a resident. But here's the other piece they're after right now is Pete Hegseth. They're after him because they thought they smelled some blood in the water, and now they don't know what else to do because they don't have any other blood. And they remember those halcyon days when they got rid of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Remember that? In the first Trump administration, they began to target, and they didn't want somebody who was going to call out the military and put the defense industrial complex on its heels. They didn't want that. And so the FBI literally came over and made a false representation to him about why they were talking and then indicted him and ruined his life. Mike Flynn ruined his life for a number of years. Just basically trashed the man. And it was so bad that Trump let him go. I don't think Trump's going to let that happen this time. First of all, I don't think Trump's going to let them undermine his cabinet like they did in the first go-round. I think Trump has also realized that if you give them an inch, they will take 5 miles. There is no satisfying the liberal appetite for destroying lives if it means get Trump and stop warriors. So in my opinion, and I pray that I'm not wrong, but in my opinion, Donald Trump, because of what he has personally been through over the last few years, is not going to let other people get trashed like this because he knows that they will not stop. And so why give them something? Why throw them a bone? Because they don't want a bone. They want lives. And Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is the life they want right now. You watch, we sitting here in the studio and it's right behind JP. So a lot of times his back's to it, but I'm looking above the screen. I can't tell you how many times I'm watching up there on the screen and it's Pete Hegseth called into question. Pete Hegseth may be at risk of losing his job. Pete Hegseth, they can't stand it.
I think they're trying to make a mountain out of a molehill.
They absolutely are.
But like the caller yesterday who said they wouldn't be doing this if Hegseth wasn't being so successful. Look at recruiting numbers. Look at morale of the troops. It feels like the warrior ethos is coming back. So
yeah,
if he wasn't doing a good job, I don't think they would pay much attention to it. And Hegseth himself said that this story came out like a day or two after a bunch of leakers were fired from the Pentagon. So, put 2 and 2 together. It sounds like some angry staffer that got mad that they got fired is now trying to rub or smear Hegseth. So I just
and the latest story comes from NPR.
Shucker.
NPR, which is at risk of losing its funding overall, right? NPR cites a anonymous defense official who says that there's real trouble with Hegseth in the Pentagon. No, okay, I doubt that. There's zero credibility to that story. So yeah, I think Hegseth's going to survive this. I really do, and I also think this is about politics. It's pure and simple. This is about progressivism versus conservatism. It's also about politics because they hate Trump. This is about the idea of a U.S. military giving us the ability to project peace through strength, and they don't want that. And me personally, to me, this is about the military I grew up in. All right, I watched it growing up. I watched what it was like for my grandfather, my father, and then myself to serve, and now have a son on active duty. I've watched it for generations. We're a war serving family, and I'll just tell you that the idea of having a strong, and I keep calling it the warrior ethos, but that's what the Army calls it, a strong warrior ethos being restored right now to the U.S. military is exactly what we need, especially in this day and age, because this is not a calm and comfortable world. I got a call. Let me do that real quick before I go to the break. Steve from Tennessee. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. I just, I read today in an article all these things that Hegseth has accomplished, not to mention, blasting the Houthis, but there was a bunch of stuff on that list. And I thought to myself, I wish that bad boy would take on the Tom Homan attitude and just basically tell them to pound sand right to their face. Because Homan he's the best I've seen at just telling them, I really don't care what you think. And I fully believe that Trump has Hegseth's back, and for the same exact reasons you say. And I know for this, you've worked in the Pentagon too. That place is crawling with people that got stuck in there during Obama, and he's got a lot of people he could fire that would have a knife in his back in a heartbeat. So I'm with you totally. And like I said, Tom Homan II would do me real good. I'll hang up and listen. Have a good one.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you, man. As always. And he's right. Yeah, working in the Pentagon, there's 25,000 people plus or minus under one roof. I mean, it's like a city in a building. It's got stores, it's got restaurants, it's got food courts, it's got massive amounts of people, and there's a bunch of embedded deep staters there, a bunch. And if you don't think the military industrial complex is not firmly ensconced in the Pentagon, you're in a dream world.
I would think that's more of the one that people like that can hide. The deep stater folks can hide in somewhere like the Pentagon because it's so big and entangled.
It absolutely is. But listen, I really believe that the left hates the idea of a strong military. I mean, think about what they did. They destroyed meritocracy for the last few years. They destroyed the idea of peace through strength. They apologized on the world stage for ever even having a U.S. spirit, an American spirit. The American dream is secondary to the idea of the DEI dream, the transgender dream, the social experimentation dream. And all of a sudden, the standards being watered down, recruiting went down, morale went down, Afghanistan was a debacle, and you look at the whole thing and you think, we got a lot of work to do to bring it back from that spot. But we can. We absolutely can. I'll tell you what, I'm going to take that call real quick before I go to the break. I don't want him to wait through the break. Let me just go ahead and do that real quick, and I've got about a minute and a half. Michael from Chattanooga. Hey, Michael, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm good, sir.
You were talking about the increase in the military. I just wanted to make you aware of something that Paula Knopf's self, she's one of the mothers of one of the 13 that was killed in the Afghanistan withdrawal debacle. She is going around the country raising money, and she has a foundation called Respect and Remember. R2factor.org is their website.
Okay.
And she raises money for junior ROTC students scholarships. And she's coming to Chattanooga next Monday to give away one of the first scholarships.
Well, Michael, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Did you want to comment on the topic at hand too with the military?
Well, see, one of the things is junior ROTC is advancing as far as the number of students who are joining it. So that proves right there that this warrior ethos is going all the way down to high school level.
Ah, outstanding. I just spoke at a JROTC military ball a couple weeks ago, and I would agree with that. Hey, Michael, we got to run to a break, man. Thanks so much for the call. Glad Chattanooga's calling in. Appreciate that.
You take care.
All right, take care. All right, listen, we are on a break. I ran long. Let's do that real quick. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
Hey, you guys, this is JP here again. Appreciate you guys bearing with us today with Phil having to be out. Like we said earlier, it was a last-minute sort of ordeal, family matter he had to attend to. So we appreciate you guys bearing with us today, like I said, with this replay from earlier this week. But Phil will be back tomorrow to end off the week, so no worries there. I want to make you guys aware of something, too, by the way, if you weren't already aware. We actually have a merch store. If you guys want to go check it out, rightsidemedia.org, where you can check out our merch there. We also have a newsletter, if you guys didn't know that as well. If you want to go to rightsidemedia.org, you can check out the newsletter there, or just text the word newsletter to our text line, which is 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. We greatly appreciate that. Also, go check out all our other content at rightsidemedia.org. We got other podcasts, other content that we put up regularly, so we'd appreciate that as well as our social media. Check all that out. We greatly appreciate that. Some text that came in today while Phil was out. He said, John from Huntsville texted in and said, JP, since Phil's not there, why don't you just sneak out to the golf course and play some golf? Don't tell me, John. Don't tempt me. I mean, look at this weather out there. It is perfect golf weather. And, you know, we overlook a hole here at the Rightside studio next to our golf course next to the studio, and I'm seeing folks playing right now, actually, on the green right there. It's tempting, John. It's tempting, but got work to do. Maybe after the show's over, I'll go hit some balls or something. Shag Nasty the Atheist also took issue with the bill to put a porn filter on children's phones, which is not surprising there. But yeah, folks, it's if you need to contact your senators, your representatives, you know that this is an important bill. There's only 5 legislative days left this legislative session, so you know, if this thing is going to get across the finish line, it needs to happen fast. So if you guys out there feel like you need to reach out to your senators, please do, your state senators, and let them know that you care about this bill and this is something that needs to get passed. Put some pressure on them, hold their feet to the fire, but in a way, in a polite way, to just remind them, their constituents care about this bill and wanted to get passed. I think that's something very important, and that's one of the positives of local politics. A lot of you guys out there even know who your representatives are down at the state capitol. So it makes it even easier to reach out to them and let them know that, you have certain bills up on the floor that they need to get pushed across the finish line. There's not a lot of time left. It's a perfect opportunity for you to reach out, make your voice heard in local politics. It's a big plus to it. This porn filter on kids' phones is something that's very important, and big tech is fighting it and lobbying against it in our own, local legislature. So I think it's important for local folks to make their voices heard, and the constituents to these state senators, they need to make it known that they care about stuff like this. So reach out and do so. If you feel so compelled to, I think it's very important for you to do stuff like that. But as we wrap up the show today, folks, it is Thankful Thursday. Why don't we just hit the sound effect one more time?
You got to be more thankful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
We thank you so much for this bountiful harvest of Domino's, KFC, and the always delicious Taco Bell.
Have you said thank you once?
Thank you.
That's right, folks. It is Thankful Thursday. Once again, find something to be thankful for today and tell someone that you're thankful for them, because it's always important to do that, folks. Always remind folks around you you're thankful for, that you are thankful for them. But also, if you don't have anything on the top of your mind you're thankful for, then you're not doing a good enough job of looking. So find something to be thankful for today, even if it's something like this beautiful weather, if it's something like Trump being back in office, which I'm thankful for every single day. Find something to be thankful for. It boosts your mood. It makes you feel happier. It makes you more grateful for what you have. So find something to be thankful for on this Thankful Thursday. And like I said, Phil will be back tomorrow. So no worries there. And until next time, just remember, there's more of us than there are of them. God is still on his throne, and stay in the fight. We'll see you guys tomorrow.